Mark here for Mark 2.0. Well, this week we were supposed to have a guest schedule that got pushed back to next week. So I thought I'd come on and just talk a little bit about Mark 2.0 and what's coming up next. First off, I want to start out by saying, there's a lot of people who ask, how can you support Mark 2.0? Well, the best thing that you can do is share these podcast episodes left and right. We are an entertainment-based uh, podcast. But we also interview other guests, and we are going to be branching out into interviewing guests in computers, tech, you name it. But our focus primarily is entertainment based. So share these podcasts with anyone who's into entertainment, share them far and wide. We're on all audio platforms. We also have a YouTube channel, and we encourage you to go and check out the video version of our podcast episodes so you can see, the master editing job done by Brian. And we are continuing to, throw in new things and just, make changes as we see fit as we continue to make Mark 2.0 the best experience for the listener. Well, I wanted to start out by saying next week we have a special guest, I should say. We have from the iconic TV show The Love Boat, Issac and Gopher, Ted Lange and Fred Grandy, who played Issac and Gopher on The Love Boat. That'll be coming this coming week. We are so excited to have them on the podcast to talk about, primarily what they're up to nowadays. They are, have some projects that they're working on together. And I'm sure we'll also chime in on The Love Boat too. But, we want to find out what they're up to nowadays. They're still at it. They're still, performing. They're still working together. And in case you don't know who these two are, or who the Love Boat is, these two were one of the most iconic duos in, television. Need I say more? If you don't know what the Love Boat is, I would encourage you to go and check out an episode. Such a great show, and all these different stars, guest appeared every week. And these two guests that we're having on, Ted and Fred, they were, regular cast members of the show. So it'll be such an enjoyable experience. And then we also have a guest coming on to talk about computer coding, Maria Arteaga, aka Cyberspace Maria. It'll be a lot of fun. But with Mark 2.0, we are constantly trying to branch out and do new things. And one of the things that we are working towards doing is getting on streaming platforms, because we want to reach as many people as possible. We have listeners, in case you don't know, we have listeners from all across the world, all across the country and all across the world, which is unreal for two guys. I mean, we were both in Phoenix, Arizona. Then I branched out and moved to Wilmington, North Carolina, which, in case you don't know, Wilmington, North Carolina is, pretty decent filming community. They filmed One Tree Hill. They filmed Dawson's Creek. They filmed a lot of movies, Netflix TV shows, Netflix movies, you name it, out here in Wilmington, Carolina Beach, Southport, you name it. Different cities out here, on the coast. And it's just so enjoyable. Lately I've been checking out movies that are filmed in the area, and then you look and you find something and you're like, I know exactly where that is. Or I just passed by that the other day, when I was going to the beach. And that's another great thing about, living out here in Wilmington, is you're 15 minutes away from the beach, 30 minutes away from another beach off of the Atlantic Ocean. It's unreal. Anyways, back to the podcast. We are working towards, taking steps to get on streaming platforms, whether it be Amazon, Roku, there's all different streaming platforms, and guests we have gotten their content on streaming platforms or movies, TV shows, you name it. So documentaries. So we are, taking the steps to get out on streaming platforms. That way more people can see our, video versions of the podcast. So we will keep you updated on that. And like I said, right now we encourage everyone to share these podcast episodes far and wide. Like I said, we have followers all over the US, all over the world, Canada. We have people reach out to us from, small places in Manitoba, Canada, saying, "Hey, I really enjoy your podcast." People coming up to me in Wilmington and say, "Hey, I've heard of your podcast. Your podcast is great." People would come up to us in Phoenix, "Hey, we love your podcast." So in person, people would come up to us and say, "Hey, I really enjoy your podcast. I found out." But then we also have all these followers across the world, really across the globe, and then across the US. And it's so great. Brian and I, just really enjoy bringing this content. And we've been able to interview, some of the best, guests around, whether it be John Wayne's grandson, Brendan Wayne, who plays the Mandalorian. A lot of people think that, Pedro Pascal is the one that plays the Mandalorian. Pedro Pascal does the voice of the Mandalorian, but he's not the one on set in the armor. That is Brendan Wayne, primarily. Brendan Wayne does the majority of the scenes, and then for Dangerous Stunts, it is Lateef Crowder. So we've had Brendan Wayne on multiple times. Like I said, we're having the guys from the Love Boat on this coming week. We've had a Who's List singer Taco Singh putting on the Ritz, 80s star, Ivan Dorshuk, the lead singer and founder of Men Without Hats, who sang the Safety Dance. All different, guests, iconic stars, up and coming artists, people like Ron Blake, who's worked on a lot of stuff out here in North Carolina and is big in film, producers like Monty Hobbs, who's done things like Divine Renovations, you name it. Iconic TV stars, like Hal Williams, who was on 227, who was on all kinds of Kung Fu, TJ Hooker, all kinds of iconic TV shows. Keith Coogan, the grandson of Jackie Coogan, who was in Adventures in Babysitting, Don't Tell Mom the Babysitter's Dead. And you know what's so funny about these guests is a lot of these people know each other, or they're linked, or they're good friends, and we have no clue when we're interviewing them. And it's so funny to find out. Like the other week, we interviewed Gabriel Jarrett. In case you know who Gabriel Jarrett is, he was one of the kids who starred in the iconic 80s movie with Val Kilmer, Real Genius. And turns out that he is good friends with Keith Coogan. He grew up with Keith Coogan, and that's why Gabriel became an actor, was because of Keith Coogan. He saw Keith Coogan doing all these things, and we've interviewed Keith before. And in June, we are looking to bring him and his wife on the podcast. Keith has come on before, but we want to bring his wife on with him because we think they'd be such inspiring guests, and it's going to be a lot of fun. But come to think of it, we did not know that, Gabriel was good friends with Keith. And it's funny too, because I was trying to get Gabriel Jarrett on the podcast for the longest time, whether reach out to, contacts, and was unsuccessful at it. And then we had on this writer, filmmaker, actor, Tom Malloy, who also owns a distribution company, for films, who's just blowing it up with his career and what he's, doing with it. And turns out that he's really good friends with Gabriel Jarrett. And that's how we were able to get Gabriel Jarrett on the podcast. And we're so thankful to these people who are just like, who's list of success and stars. I mean, Tom Malloy, right after he went, was on our podcast, he was at the Cannes Film Festival and going to red carpet events, Johnny Depp's new movie, you name it. So you never know who is going to show up on Mark 2.0. You want to make sure to share these podcasts episodes out left and right. We are primarily, Brian and I are primarily interviewing, entertainment guests, but we also are going to branch out, to computer tech, things that are trending, things that we think our listeners will get a lot out of. And you can learn so much from these podcast episodes. It's ridiculous. And it's, you know, really inspiring. So I want to encourage you to stay tuned. There's a lot of great things coming up for Mark 2.0. Share these podcast episodes out with everyone you know, whether it be audio platforms, video platforms. And one other thing I really encourage you to do is follow us on Instagram. That's where we're posting our, information on the podcast, who's coming up, what's going on. You can engage with us. You can message us. And we encourage you, message us on Instagram or write a comment on our YouTube videos and just let us know where you're listening from, because we have a general idea. We are really taking off nicely on audio platforms. We're growing the YouTube channel also. We have a general idea of where the listeners are from. We like to hear from you. Get the specifics, because we don't have it down to a science, because there's so many listeners that we want to hear from you, and we love your feedback, and let us know. You can also write reviews on Apple Podcast. You can write a review for the podcast and let us know, how much you like the podcast episodes. But if you want to directly reach out to us, the best format is just send us a message on Instagram, or comment on our posts on Instagram, comment on our YouTube videos. Well, we love our feedback, and we've gotten so much great feedback from fans that we are just so thankful. Brian and I are, and we're continuing to bring some of the best content around, whether it be entertainment. And the reason why I suggest, sharing this far and wide is because, look, we are not Entertainment Tonight. We do not have the resources that an Entertainment Tonight has. I'm in Wilmington, North Carolina. Brian is in Phoenix, where I used to live. And what the two of us have accomplished with this podcast and with the resources we have is just unreal. The who's list of stars that we've interviewed, of up and coming artists that we've interviewed, musicians, you name it, and we're just so thankful for everyone. We really appreciate you, and we encourage you to stay tuned, subscribe wherever you listen to our podcast on. Stick along for the Mark 2.0 ride, because what's so funny about Mark 2.0 is, with that name, we have a lot of people on the podcast that, did a 2.0 in their life. They, were going in one direction and did a 2.0 to change things up, and it just started taking off. And that's what's so great about this thing, is just hearing people's life stories and hearing people's success. You can learn so much from guests, and you can learn so much from these different episodes, and I encourage you to continue to check out old episodes that you haven't listened to. Share this far and wide with everyone who you think will, like these podcast episodes, because we're getting so much great feedback, and we just want it to continue to grow and grow and grow. And that's how you can support, Mark 2.0. We also have merchandise for sale, which is in the description. Mark 2.0 shirts, coffee mugs, you name it. You can find it. Anyways, that's about all that I have for you this week. Next week, we will be back with 2 great episodes, and we just thank you. We hope that you have a great weekend, and we look forward to the future of Mark 2.0, as I'm sure you do. Thank you so much to all the listeners. Brian and I really support you. Brian will be back next week for the 2 episodes, and we will be back at it 2.0 style. This is Mark 2.0. Everyone, take care. Have a great one.